Hello everyone and welcome back to fantasyfootballfix.com, the leading platform to help you build your overall rank by increasing your team value and giving you the best chance of winning those all-important mini-leagues. My name's FPL Phillips, or Eddie, and today I'm going to be bringing to you the algorithm's very own wildcard draft for Game Week 24 and how that will shape up looking across the next few game weeks as well. So make sure you stay tuned then. I will then be taking on the algorithm with my own wildcard draft, and you can tell me down below in the comments which one you feel is better. Before we get into it, do remember to subscribe. Like the video as well if you do enjoy, and remember also to turn on those notifications if you do want to see future videos from all of us here at Fix. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump in to the video. So before we get into it, I may as well just address the elephant in the room, which is how ill I sound and look, and so I can only apologise for that. I'm currently recovering from some illness, so you will have to bear with me, but I do want to get this video out before the Game Week 24 deadline, so you guys know from the computer and algorithm aspect what is the best wildcard draft you could possibly go for. We can already see the bench down below, and I will address that after the starting 11s come in, but some very interesting looking picks to dropping down onto the subs bench. But in goal for the algorithm wildcard draft, it is going to be Aaron Ramsdale of Arsenal, and so I've put all the next 3 game weeks worth of fixtures in for all these players, which is going to be more interesting to see. I will read out the ones on the bench because I know they are ridiculously hard to see, even if you're squinting, so apologies for that. But Ramsdale, yeah, he faced Wolverhampton Wanderers this week, which you'd have to say are one of the most toothless attacks in the entire league, so good chance of a clean sheet then. And he also faces Wolves when he does double in game week 26, which is one of the newest doubles to be added to that game week. In between then is when Ramsdale, of course, does blank, but it coincides very nicely with De Gea on the bench, who faces Southampton and Brentford at home in United's double game week 25. And despite how poor United have been looking recently with losses such as Middlesbrough in the FA Cup, of course, only yesterday, it's going to be very interesting to see whether the Man United defence can get their act together in the league. Of course, it was Henderson playing in the FA Cup, not David De Gea, of course. So that's going to be a very nice set of goalkeeper rotation. The only query with that really is going to be the price point, both over 5 million in terms of price now, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see, are there better combinations you can get for cheaper for rotation, or could you even just stick one of them in there and use the value elsewhere where it's perhaps going to be spent better in other areas of the pitch? But in defence then, it's going to be a back four, and a very interesting back four as well, when Nelson Semedo the standout pick in the algorithm back line. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo seem to be the most obvious picks at this point, with Leicester, Burnley, Leeds and Norwich up next for Liverpool, and then Brentford, Norwich and Tottenham for Manchester City. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether Cancelo does start for the latter of those 3 game weeks against Tottenham, with so many double game week options presumably available for the algorithm team. And then there's going to be a double up with the Liverpool backline as well, with Andy Robertson coming in. So no Jota for the algorithm it seems, but then maybe we need to be thinking about playing in advance. And I will mention that there is cash in the bank with this algorithm team. You may know who that cash is going to be for if you're thinking ahead. But Nelson Semedo is going to be a very interesting one with Arsenal, Tottenham, and then a double game week of Leicester and Arsenal. To be honest, Semedo isn't even my favourite of the Wolves defenders. He's still a good option, and his underlying statistics probably do look the best of any. But for me, Ait-Nouri is the one to go for, because despite having a smaller sample size and not getting as much game time so far this season, I think he just does look the more threatening when he's on the pitch. Only a couple of game weeks ago, picked up 2 assists in a game. And so when Wolves do get forward, and if you're thinking about attacking returns from any of the Wolves back line, it's really going to be Ait-Nouri who's my favourite for me. Or if you're looking to go for someone who's more nailed than him, you could go for Connor Cody, of course, who are both cheaper than Semedo, I believe, at this point. In midfield then for the algorithm, it's going to be a midfield 3 of Gerard Bowen, Martinelli and Kevin De Bruyne. And the standout pick really, Martinelli again, making a double Arsenal so far, despite their blank in 27, along with Liverpool right now as it stands with the FA Cup going the way it has done. Kevin De Bruyne there is the standout option really to captaincy in game week 24, along with Gerard Bowen, who are both very nice captaincy options. Watford and Brentford respectively in game week 24 for those two, and then Norwich up next for De Bruyne as well, who really seems the obvious candidate to bring in if you're looking to switch across to Salah for game week 26, where he's a very, very appetising triple captaincy option with those games we can see for the Liverpool players, Leeds and Norwich at home in that game week. And then finally up front is going to be Cristiano Ronaldo, Armando Broja, and then Michail Antonio of West Ham. So yeah, a very, very interesting team structure for me. I don't think it's going to be exactly what I go for. There's definitely going to be some changes I'm thinking about making already. Cristiano Ronaldo up front is going to be one that's very suited to the algorithm. His underlying statistics still do look good, despite not being in the best form recently and only really boasting up the numbers from earlier on in the year. But there's very slim pickings in terms of the attackers as it stands at all. And Armando Armando Broja is really quite an interesting one for me. If we look at game week 26 onwards and we look at the fixtures there, that's when I think that Southampton could be the ones to go for, and jumping on a Broja at that point, or just having him on the bench for now, should be the way to go. He faces Everton, Norwich, Aston Villa and Watford from game week 26 on to game week 29, ranking first in attacking difficulty for fixtures in that time. But before that, he faces Tottenham and Manchester United, so I'm not too keen on having Broja starting. I think I'd maybe even just bring Rafinha off the bench and start him, or Anthony Elanga even of United. I think there's an argument for dropping Broja down to the bench there, and there are stronger picks on the bench, in my opinion at least. And then Antonio completes the double up for Bowen, despite not doubling in game week 26. Both of them have been brought into it. And if we do actually look at the game week 26 fixtures and the rankings there are two single game week teams who do feature within inside the top 10 or so, and as Aston Villa and West Ham United, with games against Watford and Newcastle at home respectively. And so it really does just show that even if you haven't got a double game week, you can still rank higher in terms of fixture difficulty than some teams with double game weeks, such as Spurs, who you can see below both teams. But that is going to round off the algorithm wildcard draft, and the algorithm predicted points for game week 24 is 62 points. So I'm going to go away and put together a draft now and see whether I can come back with one that's going to score more over the next coming game weeks. Before that, though, we do need to top up what's going to happen with this draft over the next couple game weeks, who we're going to be thinking about benching in 25 and 26. So let's have a quick look at how this draft could be shaping up in the next coming game weeks. So this is literally how the draft shapes up for game week 24, and with terms of captaincy, it's going to be on Kevin De Bruyne, with Jared Bowen taking the vice-captaincy armband for game week 24. So it looks a relatively strong lineup. As I mentioned, I'd maybe not even start Semedo or Broja and bring in Elanga and Rafinha, switching up to a 3-5-2 or something like that, but I'm assuming that Elanga and Cucurella will be coming in for game week 25 anyway. So let's have a look at how the lineup changes when we do move into the next game week, and for this we'll be looking at the second set of fixtures out of the three you can see for each player. Of course, Arsenal do blank in 25, so Ramsdale and Martinelli drop down onto the bench, as does Armando Broja, who, as I mentioned, faces a pretty tough fixture in Manchester United, and Menson Semedo completes the bench, with Elanga coming in, Rafinha coming in, also Cucurella and David De Gea, which seems pretty obvious. The captaincy switches across to Cristiano Ronaldo for United's double in two home fixtures against Southampton and Brighton. Most people who are on a wildcard now will be looking to, of course, have a United asset to double for that game week and captain for that game week, which, whether it's Bruno or Ronaldo, will be the main debate, of course. And then Cucurella and De Gea with some doubles, as well as Elanga, who comes in. So very nice capitalization of that game week there. I'm not sure whether Rafinha holding him and then playing him in this game week, but not the one before. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe it isn't. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. But now let's go and have a look at what it's going to look like for game week 26 when we're shaping up. And we'll, of course, have 2 free transfers from the algorithm side moving into this game week, which is something to consider as well. So game week 26 is going to be interesting. As it stands, really, this will be how the team shapes up. I've put this together myself. I haven't used the computer for this. But the main transfer will, of course, be Kevin De Bruyne across to Mohamed Salah, which looks a very obvious move. The captaincy will then, or triple captaincy even, will be on Mohamed Salah in midfield. But for now, I've stuck it on Trent until I could get that animation sorted or whatnot. Semedo comes back in for Wolves' double, as does Ramsdale and Martinelli for Arsenal's double game week 2. Elanga and Cucurella drop down onto the bench, and Broja keeps his spot there as well. So as I mentioned, Broja has a decent bench option over the next couple of weeks. Maybe worth getting him in now, even if you can just bench him for the next 3 game weeks or so, and then take him in for game week 26 onwards for that lovely fixture spell on to game week 29. So that's my opinion on 2 cents on the issue, really. I think having that really nice triple up of Trent, Robbo and Salah in midfield could be a great way to go. And then you've got one additional transfer as well, and you could use to bring in another double game weeker if you want to. There's, of course, Rafinha, who faces quite a tough double game week in United and Liverpool. Bowen and Antonio, both single game week players for 26, as is Cristiano Ronaldo as well. But overall, this looks like a very strong draft. Maybe even could consider dropping Cancelo down onto the bench. I was very torn between going for him and maybe Cucurella against Brighton, but we've seen how well Cancelo can do against big teams such as Chelsea, where he picks up one of his biggest hauls in recent weeks. So let me know what you're thinking of the algorithm team. But now it's time for me to go away and put together a draft of my own and see what changes I would make to this algorithm side. So it might be a little controversial, but this is actually the draft I've put together for Game Week 24 if I were going to wildcard at this point in time. Of course, things could still change, but this is something that I'm looking at, and there's a few key picks that I really think could make the difference in the long run with this side. I've kept Rafinha in. I've also kept Broja and Elanga, some key picks that I thought were very strong from the algorithm. As I mentioned with Semedo, I didn't think he's as strong as other Wolves defenders, so I've gone with Aït-Nouri instead to save a bit of cash, as well as getting what I think is a better pick of the Wolves back line. Despite potentially not being 100% nailed, I think it is worth the risk with Aït-Nouri, given that we're really only going to be starting him in that game week 26, where we will know by then and have 2 free transfers to potentially sort it out if need be. But this is how we line up for game week 24. I've gone with De Gea in goal, with Foster as the backup keeper, so just going with the one real premium keeper who we will start for the next 3 weeks. If Foster is playing in goal for Watford, of course, we will know by the end of today, really, whether that's going to be the case or not. Then we could, of course, play him in goal for that double game week over De Gea, who faces Leeds away in 26. I've stuck with a very similar back line, only switching out Cucurella for Kieran Tierney instead. So that's going to lead to a different kind of formation in game week 25, which you're going to see in a minute without the Brighton doubler at the back. But I do think that Tierney is worth more, and I think the Arsenal clean sheet coverage there is important, as well as Tierney providing what I think is a much better attacking threat than some other defenders who are available, despite Cucurella also being a pretty good option, in my opinion. Up front is where the major changes have happened, with Ronaldo, of course, dropping out for Edouard, who is actually only third behind Kane and Ronaldo in terms of expected FPL points over the last couple of game weeks. And he faces Norwich, Brentford, and then Watford in the double game week as well, where he also faces Chelsea. So I really do think it is worth holding on to Edouard for that period. And he has some nice fixtures after that as well, facing Burnley in game week 27. So I really do think that he's one of my standout picks to go for if you are on a wild card this week. I've also gone with Ollie Watkins as opposed to Mikel Antonio, just to break up that double up from West Ham. I do think Antonio is a decent pick, but I don't see him getting any really big hauls. Whereas with the new reinforcements at Aston Villa, I could see some big score lines. And as I mentioned, with those single game week teams that don't have a double in game week 26, Aston Villa are still very much in the top rankings, coming in 8th, I think it was, in terms of attacking fixture difficulty for that game week. And then got Elanga, Broja as well on the bench, who, as I mentioned, retain their places. And then Bruno Fernandes comes in to move to that kind of 2 premium midfield structure rather than 1 premium midfield and 1 premium up front. And this could also be to facilitate a move to a certain Korean player who is back in training for Spurs. So let's move into and see how the team shapes up for game week 25. And there's only going to be one slight change, really. The captaincy moves across to Bruno Fernandes, and Elanga comes in for Kieran Tierney, as Arsenal do blank in that game week. So Elanga comes in, completing the United triple up to capitalise on that double game week 25. Less doublers than in the algorithms draft, but I do think that it will score higher, in my opinion. But let's move into game week 26 now with the really important one. And Tierney and Aït-Nouri come in for their doubles at the back. Elanga and Cancelo drop out, which is a very tough decision for me to make. But of course, I may well end up just not playing Aït-Nouri and having him on the bench despite being a doubler. But it's just to show how many doublers there are in this team, really. With Edouard, we've also got Rafinha, then Aït-Nouri and Tierney at the back. Of course, with Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold. And similarly to the algorithm, the move that will 100% be happening if I did have this wildcard team, and in my team myself anyway, will be De Bruyne across to Mohamed Salah, with the triple captaincy probably being on Salah for that game week where he faces Leeds and Norwich at home. And that is just too good to miss. I think it's not worth overthinking it. Just playing it on him, unless there's some major news about him potentially missing out from minutes. I think Salah is the one to go for. I'd be considering it triple captain wise, even if it was just Norwich, despite the Canaries looking relatively okay in recent game weeks. So yeah, that's going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you did enjoy having a look at the algorithm wildcard draft and also my own. Let me know, of course, whose do you think is better down below in the comments. Remember to subscribe if you're new around here. Like the video if you did enjoy. Once again, apologies for how ill I do sound. And yeah, turn on notifications if you want to be notified of future videos. Well, I don't sound as terrible as I do today. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up. That's all from me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.